All right, so today I think in 2 hours, we have the much anticipated debate. I'm not sure if I should ever watch these things because I get pissed off and it's usually boring and so on. But this seems like a potentially explosive situation. Let's see what happens. So what I wanted to do is first read for you I wrote an article last week, my inaugural article for Newsweek. It's an opinion piece. So I wanted to read it for you. I mean, of course, you can just go and read it on your own. It's not behind a paywall, but it's very relevant to tonight's debate. I'm looking. The mic is still on. Can I get a thumbs up that everything's going well, that you could fully hear me? Give me a thumbs up, somebody. I'm waiting for you guys. Thumbs up, someone. I guess there's a big time delay from when I ask it. I haven't gotten a thumbs up. Anybody? Give me something. No? Okay, I got a thumbs up. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so this is an article. Thank you very much, guys, for those of you who gave a thumbs up. The title of the article, this was last week. It was published on September 5th. And many thanks to Batya Angar Sargon, who is the deputy editor of the opinion section, and she was on my show last week. You really should listen to our chat. Fantastic chat. I've also had Layla Mickelwaite, who's been fighting Pornhub. She came on the show, and then I've also had, just posted it today, Marissa Streit, who is the CEO of PragerU. 3 women, 3 honey badgers. They take no prisoners. They're tough as nails. I wish one of them were, if we need a first female president, I wish someone with their grit and intelligence could be president. So you can go check out my chats. And by the way, just a little bit of administrative stuff. Please go check out my chat with Stephen Bartlett. He's a gentleman. I was in California this summer, and I did several shows, including his show. The show's called Diary of a CEO. They're from Britain. We had an incredible chat, very long, like over I think 4 hours and 15 minutes. The final edited piece came out yesterday, and it has gone so viral. And I've been on many high-profile shows with many incredible hosts. I don't think I've ever had a more powerful, informative, intimate conversation. Of course, in part because the host has the right set of tools, the right skills, conversational skills. He's well prepared so that it just flowed beautifully. So go check it out on his channel, Diary of a CEO, hosted by Stephen Bartlett. Trust me, you won't regret it. We got into all sorts of incredible things. Okay, so here is I'll first read you the article, and then I'll offer some additional analysis. So Kamala Harris is hoping you turn your brain off and vote on emotion. By the way, for those of you who may not know, I have taken a 1-year leave from my home university, from Concordia University, and I'm delighted to report that I am a visiting professor and global ambassador at Northwood University. If you don't know much about Northwood, please look into it. It's their slogan is the Free Enterprise University. All of the values that I defend and support is exactly what they embody. So I'm very, very much looking forward to doing all sorts of really exciting things at Northwood University. Okay, so let me read for you the article, and then I'll offer some analyses. The actor Ben Stiller was recently asked why he supports Kamala Harris. There are a number of answers he might have provided, maybe her progressive stance on abortion or on housing or the environment. But Mr. Stiller mentioned none of those. His answer, quote, all the energy and excitement that is around this movement right now. Stiller then added that it was time for a change, perhaps forgetting that Harris is the sitting vice president. But don't judge Stiller too harshly. This is the standard response of Harris supporters. Harris has so singularly relied on generating positive emotions that when she tentatively offers a policy position, it is with the half-hearted certainty that it will never become law or just flagrantly copied from Trump. Many of Trump's voters are going to vote based on emotions too, but the Harris campaign has cynically embraced a very specific view of human behavior, that our natural inclination to make decisions is largely based on emotion rather than substance and data. And she's hoping it will carry her all the way to the White House. Is she right? In some sense, she is. There's actually a deep tension between our emotional or affective systems and our intellectual or cognitive systems when we make decisions. And it turns out we humans are cognitive misers when all is said and done. We're intellectually lazy. Thinking is too effortful for most, so we rely on effortless, automatic mental shortcuts, in other words, emotions, to arrive at a decision. That there are two pathways to persuasion is a fact well known to advertisers. They think of them as the central and peripheral route of persuasion. The central route utilizes cognitive justifications to sell a utilitarian product. Think 5 things to consider when deciding if a reverse mortgage is right for you. On the other hand, the peripheral route uses cosmetic cues rooted in affective processing to sell you a hedonic product. Think of an ad showing a sexy young woman running on the beach to sell you cologne. When promoting a reverse mortgage, it is crucial to engage your cognitive system. When selling you a cologne, the advertiser wants to trigger your emotions. It's this peripheral, emotive route of persuasion that the Harris campaign has embraced with the Positive Vibes campaign rooted in joy, excitement, and fun. Her managers are willfully hijacking your decision-making process by ensuring that you focus only on your affective peripheral system. It's deeply cynical for the obvious reason that when selecting the leader of the free world, you should be engaging your cognitive system. A rational voter should evaluate the respective positions of the two candidates on fiscal policy, immigration policy, border security, foreign policy, criminal justice policy, commitment to the First and Second Amendments, the tension between the rights of biological women versus trans women, i.e. biological males, and their stance on meritocracy versus diversity, inclusion, and equity. And yet, the great majority of voters are utterly oblivious about these issues and prefer to love or hate a given candidate based on irrelevant affective processing. Emotions are evolutionarily important, but only when properly deployed on the right target at the appropriate situation. It's crucial not to let your emotions hijack your thinking, whether you are a voter or a policymaker. As American voters, you have the sacred task of choosing the person who will impact not just your country, but the entire globe for the next 4 years. I am Canadian. I will not be voting in the upcoming 2024 presidential elections, but I do care about the foundational values that define the West. I have seen what happens to a country when its voters are mesmerized by inconsequential emotional appeals. We ended up with Justin Trudeau serving for 3 consecutive terms. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you are in danger of making a crucial decision based on emotion. But only one of the campaigns is betting on that, betting on you succumbing to the weakest, laziest version of yourself. There is a big chance it's because that candidate has the weaker policies. Do yourself a favor, search for and process the relevant information, vote with your intellect, vote on the issues. The rest of us are relying on you to make the right choice, or at least an informed one. So this was my inaugural article in Newsweek that came out last week, September 5th. You can just do a search, Saad Newsweek, and you can have it in your file. Next, what I wanted to do is just admittedly, this is not a scientific poll. Obviously, it's not a representative sample, so on and so forth. But these little snippets, these X polls, give us a sense of how people think. And then I'll discuss, I don't know if you saw, I hope you did, and if you didn't, you can still go access it now. I posted next to the call for today's X Spaces, I uploaded two figures, two screenshots that I'd like you to look at, as I think of it as an X lecture you're getting here. So I wanted to first read for you, I think 6 or 7 polls that I took earlier today. This was about 2 hours ago. And I've had several thousand people vote. So here we go. Who is superior on immigration? And of course, this is a binary poll. It's Harris versus Trump. So who is superior on immigration? 3,291 people voted. 93.8% chose Donald Trump. Now, in case you're thinking, yeah, but sure, all of your, I have now almost 1 million followers on X. Oh, they all share, your view. They're all Trump supporters. Well, I don't know how many are Trump supporters, but I can assure you there are many people who follow me who are not Trump supporters, as evidenced by the vitriol that I receive whenever I say anything complimentary of Trump or anything critical of Harris. None other than Mark Cuban, who does follow me. We've communicated on many occasions, privately and in a few cases publicly. He's a huge Kamala supporter. So I don't think that the numbers that I'm going to quote for you now are simply because of the non-representational nature of the sample. So again, to summarize, who is superior on immigration? 93.8% for Donald Trump. Who is superior on the handling of crime? 94.1% in favor of Trump. Who is superior on economic issues? 92.3% in favor of Trump. And so far, just to give you the sample sizes, 3,291 people, 3,366, and 4,027. Who is a stauncher supporter of the First Amendment, right? Freedom of speech. 96.4% Donald Trump. This is 2,682 people. Now, it's not as though if you had a Harris supporter, that person, unless they're utterly lobotomized or dishonest, are going to say, no, actually Kamala Harris is much better on the First Amendment. These are, objective facts that I can offer a bewildering amount of evidence in support of these, poll results. Okay, so who is a stauncher supporter of the First Amendment? 96.4% Donald Trump. Who is a stauncher supporter of the Second Amendment? 96.6% Donald Trump. And it's 2,851 people who voted. Who is a stauncher supporter of the meritocratic ethos, which is the exact opposite to diversity, inclusion, equity, and affirmative action, and equality of outcomes, and so on, that she purports. 3,003 people voted. This one was, quote, closer. Only, quote, 87% voted for Donald Trump. And then, who better embodies the foundational values of the United States? 4,675 people voted. 95.3% said Donald Trump. So the numbers, almost every single one that I just quoted, it's 95% and higher for Trump, and only one of them was 87% for Trump and 13% for Kamala, which of course makes you think, well, how could it be that the country is so divided 50-50? It's precisely divided 50-50 because people are not using their cognitive system to make decisions. They're using their emotive system. I have tried to engage my own academic colleagues who are supposedly smart, right? They have titles like professor and doctor before their name. They're some of the biggest imbeciles imaginable, because when I say, can you give an actual cognitive justification? I hate Trump. He's disgusting. He's not befitting to be a president. He's a crook. He's a scammer. He's evil. He's immoral. He's cheated on his pregnant wife, right? Now, these might be valid concerns. You may think he's immoral. You may think it's not good to cheat on your wife. Those are all true. But they certainly are not talking about the First Amendment or the Second Amendment or departures from reality when you think women with 9-inch penises are women. when you want to promote all ways of knowing, including indigenous science instead of something called the scientific method, immigration, economic policies, on and on and on. There's absolutely no way that it could be 50-50. Okay? So now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to ask you to please turn to the 2 slides that I shared with you, because as some of you know, my doctoral dissertation my PhD was in psychology of decision making, right? At Cornell, at the Johnson School of of Management. My doctoral supervisor is a cognitive and mathematical psychologist, and so what I was trying to do in my PhD, to study my PhD, is when is it that you have collected enough information to choose between 2 candidates? And I actually spent quite a bit of time on June 21st. The reason why I know that it's June 21st, because on the day of the 30th anniversary of defending my doctoral dissertation, which was on June 21st, it was June 21st, 1994. So I did an X Spaces where I went over in quite a bit of details what my doctoral dissertation was about, how it was a mix of cognitive psychology, experimental psychology, in studying psychology of decision making. And so the 2 slides that I'm going to show you now are very much within my doctoral area of psychology of decision making. So if you look at the first screenshot, and again, you can just go now and look at it. I posted it even as a reply to my pinned tweet. So if you go to my pinned tweet where I announced that I'm holding an X Spaces, and just go to the reply thread, you'll see my 2 screenshots there. So it's helpful for you to be able to understand. So if you look at the screenshot that is titled Descriptive Decision Making, How Individuals Actually Make Choices, can I just get a thumbs up that somebody's seeing it? I'll wait a second. I just want to make sure that you guys know what I'm talking about. Somebody just give me a thumbs up. I'm waiting. There's a bit of a lag. I'll wait a second or 2. Can I get a thumbs up, anybody? Somebody? Thumbs up? Nobody? Can people hear me? The mic is on. Okay, I got a thumbs up from Kira. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. Oh, I got a thumbs up from Gal. That's great. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Thank you. Got it. Okay, so if you look at that, this is called an informational display board. Okay, and it's an informational display board because it's exactly that. It's a matrix that displays a multi-attribute choice. So let's say in this case, you've got 4 cars A, B, C, D. Each of the 4 cars is defined by a bunch of attributes. So price is an attribute, the quality of the engine is an attribute, the safety record of the car is an attribute, and the miles per gallon, I guess the acronym, miles, whatever, the gas efficiency is another attribute. The weights that you see next to the attributes are the particular person's importance weight. So that person thinks that price is the most important attribute for them at 0.5 out of 1. Meaning that price is as important as the 3 other attributes, as quality, safety, and miles per gallon. Okay, so that's why price is 0.5, and then quality is 0.25, that's 0.75, safety is 0.2, that's 0.95, and then miles per gallon is 0.05, and so it adds up to 1. Each of the 4 cars is going to receive a score on a common currency. So on a scale of 1 to 7, 7 is the best, 1 is the worst. How well does this car score on that attribute? So for example, car A scores really well on price, pretty well on quality, not well on safety, and pretty well on gas efficiency. Now here's the interesting part. Now, by the way, I'm thinking of putting together an entire psychology of decision-making course, which is something that I've taught at the Masters of Science level and the doctoral level for many years. I'm thinking of putting that behind a paywall for people, because I think it's really incredibly exciting stuff that I think people should know about. What is the actual psychological processes by which people make decisions. And as I said, That was the central theme of my doctoral dissertation. So if you look here, there are many different decision rules that one can use in arriving at a choice. So contrary to what classical economists would tell you, which is you just pick the car that normatively maximizes your utility, that's actually not true. There are, so if we were doing now an entire course, I would show you probably 15 different decision rules. Depending on which rule I use, I'll come up with a different choice. Sometimes I'll come up with car A as the winner, sometimes car B, sometimes car C, sometimes car D. Okay? Meaning that depending on which decision rule I use, I will converge to a different final decision. Okay, so now let's apply it. So you see, I'm only showing you here two rules: lexicographic, which is a rule that was first described by Amos Tversky. For those of you who might know, Amos Tversky did unbelievable work with Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman ended up winning the Nobel Prize in 2002 for his work with Amos Tversky, but unfortunately, Amos Tversky didn't win the Nobel Prize because he had passed away in 1996. And by the way, both Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman were psychologists that knew my doctoral supervisor well. He comes from that tradition. As a matter of fact, my doctoral supervisor's first published paper was with Amos Tversky. I think it was in the late 60s, if I'm not mistaken. I think they both got their PhDs at I know for sure that my doctoral supervisor got his PhD at the University of Michigan, and I think Tversky was also there, but maybe a bit more senior. I can't remember the exact details, but yeah, it was around the late 60s. Anyways, so the lexicographic rule basically says choose the alternative that has the highest score on the most important attribute. Now, by the way, this is a decision rule that is often used in consumer decision making. As a matter of fact, depending on the product category, as much as more than 2/3 of consumers will simply use the lexicographic rule. So let's put the lexicographic rule to use when choosing between toothpastes. Well, if I were to say all I care about is which is the lowest priced toothpaste, meaning that my most important attribute is price, and I will simply pick the toothpaste. Let's say there are 10 toothpastes. Let's say the third toothpaste is the cheapest one. That's the one I pick. So notice that under this rule, I did not look at all of the attributes defining toothpaste. There might be 7 attributes defining toothpaste: how much tartar it removes, how well it makes your taste, your mouth, how well your mouth tastes, or how much it combats bad, I'm losing my word. What's the word? Like bad mouth smell. What is the word? I can't remember. So there are many attributes that I can look at, but if I'm using the lexicographic rule, I only look at the most important. So in this example, the one that I'm showing you on the screen, if you look at the most important attribute, it's price. How do we know it's price? Because that's the one that has the highest weight, 0.5. And therefore, because car A scores the highest on price, I will pick it. So notice I didn't look at the information on quality. I didn't look at the information on safety. I didn't look at the information on miles per gallon and gas efficiency. I only looked at the most important attribute. That's, by the way, you might remember when I appeared on Sam Harris's show many years ago, around the time when Trump was running against Hillary Clinton, I explained to Sam, I said, look, there are very clear, rational reasons why people might choose Trump over Hillary Clinton. For example, if they're using the lexicographic rule, and if immigration is the most important attribute for them, then rightly or wrongly, although of course I think it was rightly so, if they care only about immigration, meaning they are a one-issue voter, and they think that Trump is better than Hillary Clinton, boom, that's it. Hillary Clinton might have been better on every single other attribute. If they're using the lexicographic rule, it doesn't matter. They only will look at that attribute and choose accordingly. You follow? That's why you study psychology of decision making. And I mean, that's why I'm housed in a business school, in a marketing department, because, of course, one of the places where you most often make decisions is that in consumer and economic decision making. But of course, you also make decisions when you're engaging in mate choice, voter choice, and so on. Okay. All right. So if I use the lexicographic rule on this informational display board, I would choose car A. And therefore, that's why I put it in red. You see, lexicographic rule is in red, car A is in red. Now watch if I use the satisficing rule. Okay. I can't believe, by the way, people, you get all this information for free. If you were taking it in university, it would have probably cost you about $8,000 now in tuition. So do the right thing and go and subscribe to my exclusive content. Okay? Don't be a social parasite. Reciprocal altruism, reciprocity is an important Darwinian mechanism. Tit for tat. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. I give you infinite wisdom. You subscribe to my content. It's well worth it, by the way. In any case, satisficing rule, no, it's not a typo. I didn't mean to write satisfying rule. Satisficing rule means good enough. Okay? So watch. You see the cutoffs that I've got there at the bottom of that informational display board? It's 5, 4, 3, 2. What does that mean? I'm saying that the first alternative that I evaluate that passes all the cutoffs, I will choose it. So let's suppose so here, the order in which I evaluate the alternatives is important because look, remember what I said, satisfies. If it's good enough, I pick it. So now let's suppose I'm going to evaluate them in the alphabetical order, A, B, C, and then D. So I'm going to start with car A. Is 7 greater than 5? Now, in case you're wondering, 7 is the score that car A has on price. And remember, my cutoff is 5, meaning I will not choose a car unless it has at least a 5 on price. So 7 is greater than 5. 5 is greater than 4. Now look at the third attribute. Safety, car A scores a 2, but my cutoff is a 3. That means it fails on the third attribute, so car A is eliminated. Now I go to car B. I do price, it scores a 1, but the cutoff is a 5. Therefore, car B is eliminated after only looking at price. Car C, 6 is greater than 5. 5 is greater than 4, 4 is greater than 3, and 3 is greater than 2, meaning that car C has passed every single one of my minimal cutoffs. And therefore, I stop and choose car C. The reason why it's called satisficing, because it could have been that car D is even better. Let's suppose that car D scored 7777, like it scores the best on everything. I would have picked it maybe, but I'll never get to car D because what I'm saying is first car that passes all my cutoffs, I choose it. So let's use that in dating. Let's suppose I'm a woman. Here's how the satisficing rule would look like. I want a guy to be at least of this level of education and at least this level of good looks and at least of this height and at least of this level of funny. And if he meets those 4 minimal requirements, then I'll go out with him on a date. Well, I just described for you in words the satisficing rule. So you could take these decision rules that I just mentioned, I only mentioned 2 of them, and you could put Kamala Harris and Donald Trump with all of your important attributes and go through that exercise to then say, okay, so based on this whole cognitive process, which of the alternatives should have been the one that I pick? But of course, that's not what people do. People are lobotomized fools. But she's so joyful. But she's got such good vibes. But she's a woman. She has a vagina. What could be more exciting than that? Well, but she is a woman of color. Guess what? When I go to California and I'm in my natural habitat, I'm about three shades darker than her. Okay? And I self-identify as a woman, so I should be president of the United States. And I self-identify as being American-born, so therefore I should be president of the United States. Believe me, it'll be a much better outcome than if this complete idiot were to become president. All right, so that's one way to study decision making. But now, of course, look, oh boy, it's so hard to think. Better just use our emotions. It's exciting. It's sexy. It's different. She's fun. Positive vibes. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one says, okay, when we're down to our two final alternatives, this is the one that it's titled Criterion Dependent Choice Model. So when I have used the process like the one on the previous page, narrowed it down from, say, X number of alternatives down to the final two. So this is why this is called a binary sequential choice model. So I've got two alternatives, A and B. And if you can see here, you see how I've got two thresholds, 2.5 and 2.5. What that's basically saying is I'm going to iteratively acquire one attribute information at a time on both alternatives until I have sufficiently differentiated between the two alternatives to stop and make a choice. If I hit the upper stopping threshold, by the way, that's exactly what my doctoral dissertation is on. My doctoral dissertation is on sequential stopping decisions, which is exactly what you're seeing in this curve. Okay, so if I hit the threshold of B, I stop and choose B. If I hit the threshold of A, I stop and choose A. So if you notice here, without going into all the details, the first piece of information makes it that B is ahead. But then the second piece of information, A is slightly more ahead. Third piece of information, A is a bit more ahead. Fourth piece of information, it crosses the threshold and therefore I stop. It only took me 4 pieces of attribute information to stop and make a decision in favor of alternative A. So you could exactly apply this model by listing all of your attributes that are important to you, every single one. If let's say being a woman is one, well, you could put that, right? So that would be a binary variable. She's a woman, so she gets a score of 1. He's not a woman, he gets a score of 0. Okay? You could put the scores on everything, on immigration policy, fiscal policy, tax policy, immigration policy, criminal policy, freedom of speech, Second Amendment, on and on and on. And you score each of the two candidates on these attributes. You give weights to each of the attributes. So let's say for me, the most important attribute is immigration. So I might give it the highest weight and so on. And then you can literally go through that exercise. Well, in my case, if I were to say, okay, my top 5 attributes are, immigration policy, economic policy, taxes, First Amendment, whatever, 5 of them. Well, all 5 of them, Donald Trump would score higher, and probably it would make me hit the stopping threshold rather, quickly, and therefore I would choose Donald Trump. Again, my point here is not to say, vote for Donald Trump. My point is engage your cognition. In other words, use the full panoply of information that might be relevant to you in making an informed decision. Now, this doesn't mean that affective-based processing is bad, right? Because as I've said, for example, in The Parasitic Mind, chapter 2, where I talk about thinking versus feeling, we are unequivocally both thinking and feeling animals. The challenge, as I explain in The Parasitic Mind, is to know when to activate which system, right? There are many cases where it makes perfect sense for your autonomic emotional system to be activated. I'm going down a dark alley to take a shortcut home. I see 3 young men that look suspicious loitering. I get a fear-based response. My blood pressure goes up. My heart rate increases. I start breathing in a more shallow manner. That's an autonomic emotional response that is perfectly evolutionary based and adaptive. On the other hand, using my emotional system to do well on a calculus exam is probably not a good idea. I'm just going to panic and not do well. So therefore, when it comes for choosing the president that's going to lead the free world, it really does not make sense for you to use the emotional based system, the affective system. So if you use the cognitive system and you arrive rationally at the decision that Kamala is the best one, given how you score the particular attributes, how you weigh them, and so on, hey, more power to you. You made a rational choice. But please don't be voting on completely irrelevant things because she's got positive vibes, because she's fun, because she smiles a lot, because she cackles like a degenerate lobotomized idiot, right? By the way, 1981, I believe. You ready for this? I don't think I've said this publicly. That lobotomized fool went to Westmount High School in Montreal, not far from where I'm currently sitting and doing this X Spaces. I used to go to West Hill High School. West Hill High School in 1981, played Westmount. Kamala Harris went to Westmount. Kamala Harris is my age. I was the big soccer star, scoring more goals than the amount of cackling she does in a given day. Okay? We were playing on a muddy day, very heavy pitch at Westmount High School. Score was tied 3-3. Penalty kick for us. And it's me who takes the penalty kicks. And my team was already celebrating because the likelihood of me missing a penalty shot was about as high as occasional cortex AOC having a brain cell, meaning there was almost zero chance of me not scoring. But the pitch was heavy, and guess what? The impossible happened. I went up for the penalty kick, and I slipped, and it ended up being like a complete slow pass to the goalie. Everybody went quiet. I am going to blame my missed penalty kick of 1981 prophetically on that cackler having been in the stands watching me. Her negative aura made me miss that penalty shot. So for no other reason than the fact that Dr. Goodlooks missed, I think this is the only penalty shot I might have missed in my entire career, and I was always the penalty taker. I'm going to blame this squarely at the feet of the cackler. So there you have it, folks. In conclusion, make sure that you, as you're watching tonight's debate, I don't know if they'll get into any serious substance or whether it's going to be a debauchery of stupidity, but make sure that you engage your cognitive system. I'm glad that it looks like the mic was on the entire time. Thank you so much for coming in such an impromptu manner. I'm going to now go and do a bit of biking because I'm a bit behind on my steps. I'm at about 12,000. I need to get to at least 15,000. If you're going to watch the debate, have a good time. And again, to all my American friends, please vote carefully. Don't turn it into the Justin Trudeau show to the south of the border. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much for your attention. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.